Swing Time is a beautiful film that's almost perfect. There is one scene in this, and I'm pretty sure you'll know which scene it is if you've seen the film, that kind of makes it a bit awkward, and it's the only spoiler that I will discuss. There will be no spoilers here, but towards the end I will discuss what scene I mean. But other than that, the film is pretty wonderful. This is a 1936 film directed by George Stevens and stars Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. I am a big fan of Fred Astaire. His footwork is just phenomenal. I love watching him dance, and thankfully we get a lot of this in this film. He plays a character called Lucky, who is a gambler who is not exactly the richest. Let's just say his gambling is not always going in his favour, and his current fiance, or his fiance's father, has said, if you can give me $25,000, you can marry my daughter. And initially, he goes off to try and do that, but he starts to fall in love with a dance instructor called Penny, played of course by Ginger Rogers, and it's about various things that they do together, all the while kind of working towards Lucky getting married, but also we can see, and Penny's unaware of the fiance, we can see Lucky very genuinely falling in love with Penny. Will he get the money? Will he marry the other girl? Or will he realise he's meant to be with Penny? I'm not going to say, of course, but it's beautiful. The narrative flows very well. Sometimes it's easy to forget about the fiance, to be perfectly honest, and I think that works very well because that's very much what Lucky is feeling. He's so enamored of Penny that it's very obvious that he's not really thinking of his fiancée that much. So I like the fact that whenever that side of the narrative is mentioned, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I forgot that that was a thing, as is the case with Lucky. And for me, the one thing that I wanted for this was fabulous choreography. Now, usually when it comes to musicals, I'm a very big musical fan. Usually I prefer quality songs. The choreography is hit or miss. I don't mind if it's terrible, I don't mind if it's amazing, as long as the songs themselves are very good. But when it comes to Fred Astaire, and just tap dancing as well, I love the sound of tap dancing. Obviously, the choreography there, for me, is more important than the songs. But the songs in this are pretty good, and there are a couple that I recognised, namely Pick Yourself Up, which I love, and the actual performance with that is fabulous, and the routine that comes immediately after that as well is brilliant. It actually won an Oscar for Best Original Song, The Way You Look Tonight, which I didn't realise came from this. It's music by Jerome Kern, lyrics by Dorothy Fields. I hadn't realised that that was the case, so that's obviously something that's worthy of praise. Brilliant choreography, really great music, brilliant costumes, really brilliant costumes, but the one spoiler, this is the only spoiler, I'm not going to say how he gets into this situation, but Fred Astaire does blackface, and it really took me by surprise. And honestly, just before it happens, he's about to go on stage, and he sits down at the dressing room table, and he's rubbing something in his hands, and I didn't think much of it. I could tell it was a dark material or a dark substance, but I didn't think anything of it. And then cut to the next scene, he's on stage, surrounded by dancers, with blackface. Now, apparently, it's an homage to Bill Bojangles Robinson, who was a tap dancer. So it's done very much out of love and respect. The intentions were good, but obviously when you see it, it's kind of like, well, did you need to go blackface to give an homage or show respect and love for this dancer? I don't think you needed to do that. And that in itself is awkward, but what's more awkward is that once the performance is over, and I have to say, the performance is incredible. It really is astounding. But once that's over, for a good 5-10 minutes, when he's having conversations with other people and the narrative's moved on, he's still wearing this face makeup. And that's kind of when it's really awkward. So that's obviously something that makes the film less than perfect. But if that's the biggest issue, I think it's done very well. It is really very well done. Very funny. Very, very funny indeed. One performance I particularly enjoyed was actually a character who was barely in it. And I believe his name was Eric. Eric, no, I'm going to mess up this surname. Lacanistram, there we go. Eric Lacanistram, played by Gerald Hamer. He's a character with whom Lucky gambles, and honestly, I thought his performance was brilliant. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Great supporting cast. Obviously, Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire were amazing. It's very, very much worth watching if you like musicals, if you like this kind of film. I think you'll really love it. My favourite performance of all is the performance inside the pen, the ring. It's the one they do after after something happens to Penny and it seems like her job might be at risk. It's the one that happens immediately after that. And I just couldn't take my eyes away from the screen. Really thoroughly worth watching. Swing Time is one that I will definitely watch again, and I'm very happy to recommend.